We spend an enormous amount of time dissecting boomers and millennials. We study Gen Z like a fascinating new species. But right in the middle, born roughly between 1965 and 1980, is an entire generation living in an invisible vacuum. They are the older coworkers who show up, do their jobs, and leave without complaint. They are the parents who can sometimes seem oddly detached from modern daily drama. There is a paradox at the center of this group. These are the people who built the infrastructure of the internet, yet they rarely use it to post personal details or photos of their breakfast. Their digital absence is a specific response to the social and environmental conditions of a world that no longer exists. In 1978, the daily reality for an 8-year-old often involved letting themselves into an empty house. Without smartphones or digital surveillance, they made their own snacks and did their homework in total isolation until their parents finished work. This chart, based on a 1984 study in the American Journal of Orthopsychiatry, shows the scale of this environment. By that year, approximately 7 million children between the ages of 5 and 13 were regularly unsupervised after school. Researchers call this a high-contingency environment. Because adults were absent, there was no buffer between a child's actions and the immediate, real-world consequences. When parents did arrive, the rules were often absolute. Step out of line and the consequences were immediate, with very little space provided for a child to discuss their feelings or perspective. Navigating an environment where outcomes were so directly linked to actions required constant calculation. This forced children to develop a habit of thinking several steps ahead, a trait that remains a defining characteristic of the generation. Gen X grew up with a specific promise. If you worked hard and followed the rules, life would remain stable. The reality they witnessed as children was a steady erosion of that stability. The massive spike in divorce rates during the 1970s and 80s shattered the illusion of domestic permanence, showing the cultural upheaval surrounding marriage. They also watched the concept of company loyalty disappear. Parents gave years to corporations, only to face immediate layoffs during the next restructuring. Institutional trust eroded further as they watched a string of high-profile failures on television, from the deceptions of Watergate to the complexities of Iran-Contra. These institutional failures had physical, often lethal costs for the populations the government chose to ignore during the onset of the AIDS crisis. This pattern of instability followed them into adulthood. Gen Xers entered the workforce during the dot-com bust and were in the middle of their careers when the 2008 financial crisis hit. This history created a mindset often described as defensive pessimism. They use irony as a shield and expect the rug to be pulled out from under them, because for most of their lives, it has been. Before the internet, acquiring knowledge or participating in the economy required significant physical effort. Their introduction to the adult world often came through demanding labor. Prepubescent children were responsible for navigating neighborhoods and delivering news before sunrise. Finding a single fact required spending hours in a library, hunting through card catalogs. Information had a physical cost in time and labor. Cognitive psychologists call this deeper encoding. Because problem-solving required such intense individual effort, the skills and information learned became a permanent part of their memory. This effort created a belief in mechanical intuition. You didn't wait for a technician when a tool or a bike broke. You got your hands dirty and learned to master the physical world yourself. The result is a fierce loyalty to competence over titles, but it also creates an isolating form of self-reliance. For many in this generation, asking for help feels like an admission of defeat. Today, Gen X is raising their own children in a world defined by constant supervision and digital documentation, the opposite of the environment they grew up in. This creates a unique internal conflict. They provide their children with the attention they lacked, but they quietly worry that this constant support makes the next generation less capable of handling a crisis alone. This explains their absence from social media. In the Gen X worldview, being visible means being vulnerable. To them, privacy is synonymous with safety. They are the last generation that will remember what it means to be truly alone with their thoughts, to solve a problem without a search engine, and to maintain a life that isn't documented for strangers. Gen X is the bridge generation, holding together the analog past and the digital future. They are doing the work without expecting an audience.
And, in true Gen X fashion, they don't seem to